and get ready to experience a drive-through light show like you've never seen before.
Are you looking to upgrade or improve the garage door on your home? This is Cameron Hall of Doors Plus. At Doors Plus, we guarantee to offer a wide selection of options from 5 leading garage door manufacturers as we deliver a free estimate, exact measurements, and rapid installation with a 3 to 5 week time frame. When you choose Doors Plus for your residential garage door needs, you'll work with our experienced technicians and be ensured that your new door seamlessly complements your home. Give us a call at 402-590-5800 or visit us online at doorsplusllc.com. Doors Plus, garage doors and more.
Are you a skilled mechanic looking for your next big opportunity? Constructors is hiring. We're looking for experienced mechanics to join our family-owned team. We offer competitive wages, great benefits, brand new service trucks, OEM-level diagnostic software, and career growth opportunities. Positions include lead and A-level mechanics for our shop and multiple field technicians. If you're driven and ready to grow with a company that's been around since 1908, apply today at constructorslincoln.com.
Davis Plumbing has been in business for over 15 years and is currently searching for journeyman plumbers to join their team. Experience is preferred, but not required for all applicants. When you join the team at Davis Plumbing, you'll receive full benefits package with paid time off. Join a small local business doing big things in Lincoln and surrounding areas. Apply today by calling 402-525-6922 or find them on social media. Davis Plumbing, locally owned and operated for over 15 years.
It's the holiday season. Time for work parties, friend get-togethers, family gatherings, which means lots of eating. Maybe you think you've perfected your holiday meals, and maybe you have no idea where to even start. Let's fix that right now. No holiday party is complete without Führer's cheese spread. It goes well with any type of cracker, pretzels, apples, chili, vegetables, chips, and of course, it's perfect to pair with wine or beer. Holiday meals aren't complete until Führer's cheese spread is on the table. Find your own container at your nearest local grocery store today.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
General Fire and Safety has been keeping Lincoln businesses and commercial structures safe for more than 50 years. From a simple fire extinguisher to full fire suppression systems, Lincoln has trusted General Fire and Safety to provide top-of-the-line products, installation, and maintenance. If you're starting a new business in a brand new building, call on General Fire and Safety to help you plan a fire safety system that fits the specific needs of your business, employees, and customers. Call General Fire and Safety today at 402-261-0116.
This is On the Block with Strick and Austin. Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland.
Strickland for three! And you're going to go out of here as the Big 8 tournament champion.
Middle school basketball coaching legend and Duke basketball shooting coach in his mind, Austin Orman. Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Presented by NIPCO. This is On the Block with Strick and Austin.
That it is. Welcome into On the Block just for about 40 minutes or so. Austin Orman joined by Jake Bachhoven, probably a better career three-point shooter than Eric Strickland, but we won't put that out there. We won't look up the numbers for specifics. 402-464-5685 if you want to be a part of the show. Don't forget, we are still trying to gather nominations, gather names to give away a Thanksgiving meal. We've partnered up with some awesome people here across the Lincoln community who said, yeah, we can make a difference. We want to help. So if you are struggling to put food on the table during Thanksgiving, if you know a family that could maybe use a little bit of a hand, please let us know. Send us a text with either your name or this person or this family's name at 402-464-5685. My email's open for you, Austin at theticketfm.com. DM me on Twitter as well. We want to help, and we are so blessed and fortunate that we are able to try to help, and we can't, again, say thank you enough to all the wonderful restaurateurs and chefs here in Lincoln that are giving a hand, right, helping us out and helping other people. So again, 402-464-5685. Austin at theticketfm.com, or send me a DM on Twitter for that. I am joined by Bach during On the Block. It's brought to you by our friends at Nebco. Nebco and Constructors is hiring for all positions, but they've got immediate job openings, especially for mechanics. If you're a mechanic and you need a little bit of a change up, want to start a career someplace different than you are right now, we can't recommend the people at Nebco more highly. You can check them out at nebcoinc.com or constructorslincoln.com. All right, Bach, let's dive into some Husker hoops here. Nebraska men's basketball on Friday night gets a big win over Creighton, second of the 4 games in the big weekend here in Huskerville. 74-63, Huskers never trail against a Creighton team that was down 4 at halftime to San Diego State in the Players Era Challenge Festival, whatever it is. When I look at Creighton, right, it's not going to be a Creighton segment, but I think it's an illustration we can use. Creighton goes from playing Nebraska to flying out to its multi-team event. They're getting paid handsomely for it. They're getting compensated for it. Good for them. But I took a step back this week and it's probably a good thing for this program and where this team is at right now that after the week and a half that they've had with St. Mary's at a neutral site, closer for you than it is for them, but that is an NCAA tournament feeling game, having to go on the road to Creighton, even if it's just 50 miles up the road, it took a lot out of that team to get that win the way it did. NCAA tournament caliber game, biggest rivalry game. If Nebraska had to fly out on Sunday or Saturday right after Creighton to play, 2 games in 3 days or 3 games in 3 days, whatever it is, I don't know how great I would feel about that for this team. So I think that it was a very savvy scheduling move by Nebraska to have these 2 games, get back into non-con, a couple games in conference play as well with Indiana and Michigan State, and then have Nebraska's multi-team event be over Christmas instead of Thanksgiving. I think that's going to end up paying dividends here in the next week and change for this team. But also, I think as they get back into conference play, being re-energized, renewed, refreshed by getting to go out over Christmas instead of Thanksgiving, I think that was perfect scheduling by Nebraska.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I think that's gone well, and I think the scheduling altogether looks pretty good. I mean, Nebraska knew they were going to have, like you said, some big time opponents in St. Mary's and Creighton here. Didn't know North Florida was going to be as good as they have been.
No kidding.
So that'll be interesting there on December 1st when they come in. But this is and that's on Sunday. So but this next game against South Dakota will be on Wednesday night, tomorrow night. So yeah, I mean, I like being able to come home or stay home, if you will. And being able to take on some opponents here, though, you do wonder too, coming off such a big win over Creighton, if it might have been a good, in hindsight, and if you knew that maybe then you would want to take on one of your bigger non-con opponents while you have the momentum and kind of your confidence high. But I'm not going to argue one way or the other. I mean, I think either way, it's always good to be home. So if you've got a slate of 2 home games against opponents that you're supposed to beat, to kind of continue to gather that momentum and confidence that I was just mentioning, I think it sets up pretty well for Nebraska. And I particularly, again, look forward to that North Florida game because that could provide more of a challenge than we originally thought.
Fred Hoiberg, I was at his presser after Matt Rule yesterday, and he compared South Dakota, the way the Coyotes play, to Rio Grande Valley. So they got a bunch of guys that can score. They'll crash 5 to the offensive glass quite a bit. So Nebraska has to come ready. It sounds like Fred Hoiberg was also pretty pleased with how his team responded to tough coaching, and that they're obviously trying not to overlook a team like South Dakota. But again, this is kind of the fine line that Nebraska has to walk here, Bach, is that on the one hand, you're at home, right? You come home to your fans in your arena after a big game. So you get to relax a little bit, maybe not as tight. But also, if Nebraska does have a bit of a letdown, which they shouldn't, right? That they unlock something. Now the challenge is obviously consistency. But the hope is that there's not a letdown. That what worries me is this is a 5:30 game on a Wednesday. So yeah, Nebraska's at home. Yeah, they don't have to travel. Let me just say I'm not exactly expecting the best crowd at 5:30 the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So even though it is at home, to me, it's going to be a bring your own energy sort of game for this Nebraska men's basketball team.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, and hopefully, they can rely on a lot of veteran leadership and able to do that. I mean, you especially would worry that with a young team. As we know, this is not a young team; it is a team that's playing together. Maybe young in that way, but a lot of veterans in here that should be able to bring their best ball and be, like you said, kind of create their own energy to be able to take down the Coyotes of South Dakota. So it's interesting, and it continues to be interesting to me. I mean, we talked before the Creighton game about maybe paring down your roster down to 8 or 9 guys that you would play, and they didn't necessarily do that against Creighton. And to their credit, like, I thought a lot of the role players, or what you would define as role players at this point, each of them just kind of had a big possession or a few big possessions that they played their role in helping beating Creighton. And so that's kind of my next level of interest in these games is outside of Nebraska, hopefully not dropping an embarrassing one and really, kind of already erasing what you've done against Creighton. Is what does it look like? Because we still kind of have a lot of questions about Nebraska. Though they beat Creighton, there's a lot of questions about how is this going to look throughout the season.
Is Nebraska under Fred Hoiberg in a spot right now where he's turning into mild-mannered basketball Bo Pelini? Because I don't necessarily worry as much as I once did about Nebraska in some of these quote-unquote lower-level games. Did Nebraska play perfect against Rio Grande Valley? No. Did they let the lead slip too far against Bethune-Cookman? Yeah, they did. But under Fred Hoiberg, really since 3 years ago now, that team that went 16-16, at least in non-conference games, it seems like Nebraska's won the games it should win, and will more often than not drop the games that they're not favored in. But again, Fred Hoiberg 6-8 in his last 14 games against top 25 opponents. So I don't know about you, Bach, but even if it's not pretty, I'm less concerned about Nebraska dropping the ball and actually losing a game against a lower level opponent than I was even just a few years ago.
Yeah, I would say that. And that's kind of, always comparing to the last coach. Obviously with Fred, he struggled early in his tenure because he just didn't have the quality teams.
Right.
But Tim Miles' teams were very affected and would get knocked off from time to time by that type of loss. I don't have all that much of a fear of that. And I think you're right. I mean, I think they've earned that reputation. So I could see it that way. I've never necessarily compared Fred Hoiberg to Bo Pelini, but I like it. I like that you were able to find a comparison.
We're getting there. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think there's something there. We're workshopping it. We'll see if we can get Fred to cuss out reporters behind. No, I'm kidding. Let's not do that. You mentioned some of the role players stepping up against Creighton. You and I were kind of dancing around this topic, but let's just come straight out and ask the question. Who needs to be Nebraska's second leading scorer for this team to challenge for another NCAA tournament berth? We'll get into some bracketology projections here in the next segment. Well, not too much time left. But right now, it's Bryce Williams leading the way when it comes to scoring the basketball for Nebraska, which should come as a shock to absolutely nobody. I mean, Bryce has scored 27 and I think 28 or 29 points in a game already this year. Nebraska's second leading scorer, Juwan Gary, at 11.6 points per game. Then Nebraska has 3 other players averaging double figures. Connor Siege and Raleigh Wooster at 10.4 points per game each, and Berke Boyuktanjal at 10.2 points per game. Bach, who needs to be Nebraska's second best scorer for this team to reach whatever it is you qualify as the team's ceiling?
It's such a difficult question because, there's just a lot of different ways to go with it. I think Juwan Gary can be that. I mean, he is that now. And you can, if he is that means you're getting a lot of, well, it's hard to tell what that means, right? I mean, is it because he's taking a lot of shots? Is he's just kind of taking that role, or because he's playing within himself and getting those points? Those are two very different outcomes or different kind of thought processes there. It's not to belittle, or any sort of way of what he does, but I think his role might be better not to be relied upon to be a scorer and just kind of get what you can there. So even though he's second right now, that's not necessarily the answer I'd go with. I think Wooster is solid. He's your third leading scorer at this point, around 10 points a game. And I think that's certainly an expectation you can keep. The bottom line is it could be a different guy. I mean, they've got enough guys that it could be a different guy every night, but you'd like somebody to step up and take that role. I can't wait to see what Berke Boyuktanjal turns out to be. He's got all the potential in the world there. But I really think if they want to hit their stride, Connor Essegian, who's coming off the bench right now, could be that guy. A couple of years ago at Wisconsin, he looked like he was well on his pace to be a player to look out for as far as a 15-point per game type of guy. By this time by his junior year, really took that step back last season, fell out of the rotation, and that can happen to a guy whose game is so dependent on whether his shot is falling in or not. But I guess the point is, remember, I don't expect him to be Casey, but Casey started off in the same role, kind of bench player, would get some points out, before at some point they realized, man, he's too much of an offensive threat. And if a season can continue to do that, you don't have to be Casey, but if you can be Casey light, I think Nebraska's got a lot bigger ceiling with consistently getting points from a season than they do with maybe someone else taking that spot.
402-464-5685 or drop a comment on stream. Whatever you think Nebraska's ceiling is, who needs to be Nebraska's second leading scorer to help the Huskers get there? Last year, Keisei Tominaga led the way with 15.1 points per game. Bryce Williams was second at 13.4. Rink Mast, third in the team with 12.3, and the last double-digit score on a per-game basis was Juwan Gary with 11.6 points per game. He's right in line with what he was doing last year. He's at 11.6 this year. He was at 11.6 last year as well. To me, it can't be Juwan Gary, right? Unless he's getting that many garbage buckets, right? Offensive rebounds or spot up threes. If Juwan Gary is hitting 2 threes a game, that's probably too many shot attempts for him. That's a lot. He's a guy that can get hot, but he can get cold as well. Still don't consistently trust him from the outside. So if Juwan Gary is going to continue to average 11.6 points per game or even tick that up a little bit, to me, it's going to be because he's jumping passing lanes, getting out in transition, because he's being a smart cutter, because Nebraska is using him along the baseline, or only going to him in isolations when he has a perfectly advantageous matchup. I don't think he's an ISO guy. We've seen Nebraska try to use him there a little bit this year. Hasn't necessarily gone well. Raleigh Wooster, we'll see. I think Raleigh Wooster is going to score some really important buckets for this team like he did against Creighton. If he continues to average 10 points per game, I think that's about right. If you have to ask him to average 13, 14, 15 points per game, I know that doesn't seem like a huge increase, but I think based on the number of shots and the type of shots he would have to take, the style of play it would take to get him there, probably not great. I think Raleigh Wooster does settle into that 8 to 11 points per game sort of range, but all of them are going to be pretty important buckets, pretty savvy buckets. So to me, it comes down to, what's your style? Would you rather have a go-to post guy in Berke Boyuktengel or another perimeter creator in Connor Essegian? And I just think that if Nebraska is going to continue to play big, it's going to need Connor Essegian to be consistent off the bench. That starting lineup that Nebraska seems to like of Williams, Gary, Wooster, Boyuktengel, and then Braxton Mia right now is so heavily slanted defensively. Bryce Williams carries a lot of offensive load for that group. Obviously, Wooster in there can as well. Boyuktengel has to pick it up scoring the ball, right? Hard to say for a guy that's averaging double figures right now, but let's see some consistency, especially from outside where Nebraska thinks that he can stretch the floor. Been hit or miss for him so far, mostly miss. If Boyuktengel can shoot 34, 35% from three, that I think gives that starting lineup enough offense to really make them dangerous. But if the offensive output from the starters is going to be the same, you need Connor Essegian on a night-to-night basis to be closer to, 12, 13 points rather than 10 right now for Nebraska to consistently be in games in the Big Ten as far as I'm concerned. And it takes a lot of the load off of Bryce Williams. Raleigh Wooster can create from the perimeter. Obviously, Nebraska wanted him for that reason. He can get a paint touch, but I don't think he can get his own bucket almost as easily as Connor Essegian can when he's allowed to. Nebraska hasn't asked Connor Essegian to do a lot of that. They're running a lot of actions for him. So I think if you see Connor Essegian used the way he was against Creighton, I think that's a good way to use him. Maybe ask a little bit more of him with some of these second and third units that Nebraska runs out there. So for me, Bryce Williams is going to be the leading scorer for this team, right? He should be deepest bag. That makes sense. I think Connor Essegian or Berke Boyuktengel both need to be at 12 points per game, give or take there. Raleigh Wooster, hit or miss. Juwan Gary, if he's the fourth leading scorer again, I think this team can challenge for the NCAA tournament.
Well, and historically for Nebraska, as we've seen, at least the tournament teams have been kind of that big three, that you can rely on. And I don't know if you necessarily, it's hard to envision that right now. You obviously a lot of season left to play, see who those would be, but you're almost kind of thinking, Gary and Williams would be one of them. And that's kind of what we're asking, who would be the next guy to step up. But I guess my question would be from there, is, are we ready to embrace this team? Maybe this whole discussion is could be tabled if we're ready to embrace this team as kind of the defensive minded team that maybe, and that if you are that way, then yeah, you kind of still have the Superman cape on Williams, but then you maybe can rely on, one of your other 4 guys that are in double figures right now. Doesn't have to be the same guy every night to kind of be that Robin to his Batman. Nebraska is shooting 25% from beyond the arc.
Woof.
So there are early signs they might not be the offensive team that they were last year. Do you think there's a possibility this team could maybe not identify that second guy, be one of the top teams defensively and make a tournament run?
If this team doesn't find a consistent second banana offensively, I don't think it's going to make a tournament run. I'll say it that way. Could they make the tournament? Absolutely. But we saw what Texas A&M did to Nebraska, and Texas A&M didn't really have a second banana, but their first banana was really freaking good. Yeah. Wade Taylor IV was incredible. Everyone else knew their roles around him. I'm not going to say Nebraska can't do that. We just haven't seen a Nebraska team really in program history do that. Again, not to say this team can't break the mold, but I want to see more from Bryce Williams, right? I'm not saying Bryce has been bad, right? Nebraska's asking a lot of him and will continue to ask a lot of him. I'm not saying he can't hold up. I'm curious to see if he will, right? It's a lot on a guy that is a silky smooth sort of scorer, but is really taking over games from the free throw line right now. There's an art to that. There's some skill to that. But we know Big Ten play, whistle's probably going to dry up a little bit. NCAA tournament, whistle's probably going to dry up a little bit. Can Bryce Williams create easy shots, or can he get on the Kemba Walker heater and just hit a lot of tough ones? That's the question to me. Let's take a break here. Nick wants it in about 15 minutes back at Memorial Stadium. When we get back, we'll have a short discussion. Is Nebraska men's basketball an NCAA tournament team? Different outlets see it different ways. Bach and I will give you our opinions on that when we get back here to On the Block.
Slay the holidays this year with a gift that'll really get them going. One that's built to win, like the new Honda CR-FR Motocrosser. One that's built for fun, like a Honda Mini Moto. Or one for each member of the family, like a Honda CR-F Trail Bike. At Rod's Power Sports, you'll find the motorcycle, ATV, or side-by-side they'll love during the Honda Gifts That Go sales event. You can slay.
Empower a child today with the Teammates.
The following is a test of the emergency alert system.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Automotive Solutions is Lincoln's one-stop shop for all your vehicle needs, from vinyl wraps to engine repair and maintenance. Automotive Solution offers fleet services as well as printing and graphic design for vinyl applications, plus installation of vinyl for boats, trucks, cars, and anything else you want wrapped. Perfection is their standard, and they never settle for less. Call today at 531-249-5600 or go to automotivesolutionslincoln.com to learn more. That's Automotive Solutions, 2040 Southwest 5th Street in Lincoln. Come enjoy a show of the Midwest's best MMA fighters on Saturday, December 7th with Violence Fight League 2 at the Complex, the former location of Champions Fun Center. Fights are scheduled throughout the night, and if you haven't been before, now is the perfect time to go, with Nebraska football in between the regular season and a bowl game. Doors open at 6 p.m. with the first bout at 7 p.m. Learn more about the fighters and buy tickets at thecomplexlincoln.com.
The Link Grill Draft and Crafts is your spot in Southeast Lincoln for great food and drink. They're serving new menu items and a killer craft cocktail menu with your favorite draft beers. You'll love their pizza and new entree options. It's a great place to watch any live events, and they have music bingo every month. They have an aggressive loyalty program that rewards fans with 7% back on all purchases. Home of the Nebraska Power Hour every night from 8 to 9 p.m. Order online at thelnkgrill.com or stop in at 84th and Highway 2 today.
Nutrition Authority invites you to enjoy internet-crushing prices at the Black Friday Blitz. We're taking our better-than-internet prices and cutting them even deeper, bringing you the biggest sale of the season. Monday, November 25th through Saturday, November 30th, the Black Friday Blitz is on at Nutrition Authority. For location info, check us out at mynutritionauthority.com.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Brown Shoe Fit has a Black Friday deal so good, it's available for 3 days. Stop by Brown Shoe Fit from November 29th through December 1st for 20% off everything store-wide. Brown's has all your favorite brands, plus Lincoln's largest selection of Uggs, which makes the perfect Christmas gift. And speaking of stocking stuffers, buy 3 Smart Wool socks, get 1 free during the extended Black Friday sale from November 29th through December 1st at Brown Shoe Fit, 6060Q in Lincoln.
Hey everyone, Lance here with Black Label. We specialize in creating custom crafted decks, pergolas, patio covers, and more. Plus, our retractable screens, gazebos, and patio enclosures create the ultimate outdoor retreat. With over 50 years of combined experience, we're not just builders, we're creators of unforgettable memories.
Call them today at 402-730-6333 or visit blacklabelbuilt.com for a free consultation.
Let's turn your backyard dreams into reality.
Black Label Built, built to serve, built to last.
Now back to On the Block with Strick and Austin on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is On the Block for another 5 minutes or so. Austin Norman and Jake Bachoven with you. Thanks to Nebco for their sponsorship of the show. Don't forget, if you know someone or a family in need of a Thanksgiving meal, hit us up, 402-464-5685. We have plenty of meals to give out here, at least a couple more throughout the rest of the day. We'll announce the recipient of the meal at halftime of our upcoming C1 state championship game between Central City and Wahoo. But back on Nebraska men's basketball here. Just on a whim, pulled up ESPN. I scroll down not very far, see some bracketology. And at the top of this bracketology, you have a little write-up, right? Bracket Watch, top overall seed, Kansas, which that'll change after they lose to Duke tonight. First team out, New Mexico. Last team in Nevada. Then you scroll down a little bit more. Last 4 byes, Nebraska opponent St. Mary's.
Okay.
Michigan, first year of a new coach. Clemson looking like they're spunky, like they have been recently. And then Maryland as the last 4 byes. The last 4 in would be the play-ins in Dayton. Hunter Sallis and Wake Forest.
Ooh.
Matched up, according to Joe Lunardi, with an ascendant Georgia program. Nevada is the last team in, beat out by your Nebraska Cornhuskers in the 11 versus 11 play-in game. The pod would be in the East region, taking place in Wichita. Winner of Nebraska Nevada would get to face Coach Calipari in Arkansas.
Ooh.
In the winner, the other half of that pod would be Houston and South Dakota State. That is first of all, fantastic, fascinating pod on a number of levels. But that's ESPN, has Nebraska as an 11. On the flip side of that, CBS Sports has Nebraska not even in the first 4 out. Nebraska is not in CBS Sports' tournament projections right now. The last 4 in, according to CBS and Jerry Palm. Maryland, Providence, Memphis, Miami, first 4 out. BYU, Wisconsin, New Mexico, and Virginia. Are you team ESPN, Nebraska's in? You team CBS, Nebraska's out?
Well, if you cut the season off after 5 games and they have a top 15 victory and their only loss was a 3-point loss to another tournament team, I think they'd be in. So, it is obviously pretty early to do it, but I think Nebraska would be in at this point. It's just, you're still kind of going through, again, learning the team. But this is what that Creighton victory just propels you into that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fantastic to be there this early because I kind of expected, especially after watching the first few games, I, like you, was kind of thinking, well, I still have to see some to believe this is a tournament team. And while I still have kind of some questions about, who is going to define their roles, again, you've already put it on paper. You've already got a resume defining victory. As long as I said it earlier, you might have to cheer for Creighton a little bit.
No, you can't make me. You can't make me.
Well, you at least want that to look like a good victory. But yeah, I mean, I think as of now, you would say they would be in, after 5 games. But is the expectation for that to just kind of stay that way? Because that's what can really propel the program, is if you start, you get that win, you're in these early projections. Now you work to not fall out. You don't have to do kind of the build-up work to fight your way in.
Let's say Nebraska makes the NCAA tournament. I think there's quite a bit that would have to go right. I think that the Big Ten is not a top-heavy conference. I think it's very deep. So I think it'll depend on who Nebraska beats. I'm not too worried about the Huskers here at home. On the road, right? What quality opportunities do you have to steal a game on the road in conference play? But let's say that Nebraska misses out on the NCAA tournament, right? I don't think this is a Nebraska team that bottoms out, right? I think this is an old team, a veteran team, an experienced team that's only going to get better playing together. You can see what the strengths could be, cough defense. You can see what the weaknesses could be, cough shooting. If Nebraska only, I say in air quotes, makes the NIT, Bach, that's not a lost season to me. That's not a failed season to me. I still have questions about how this roster fits together with what Fred Hoiberg truly wants to do. I think that they got the best players they could get, and I credit the head coach and his staff for making it work to the degree that they have right now. I still don't think it's a perfect Fred Hoiberg style of team. So if he's able to take this group of players, coach them into NCAA tournament consideration, but if they host a game in the NIT, this is a program that doesn't make back-to-back postseasons very often, right? So, yes, you would prefer an NCAA tournament, but I don't think that all the momentum comes to a screeching halt if Nebraska makes the NIT instead of the NCAA tournament this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're, in again, with the first couple of years that Fred Hoiberg had here, I mean, there were times where we're going, I mean, how much more can you really do? I mean, statistically, this is one of the all-time turnarounds. And so far it has been. Now, how can you kind of maintain that? Is the question. And yeah, I mean, I think you're just kind of given a few different outs here. And one being historically, that's, it's not what's expected at Nebraska. You do want to see them take advantage of the opportunity, right? Of having Bryce Williams back. I mean, at least you have, some leadership. You've got an older team. I think that within that locker room, they're going to want that. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be overly concerned or say, like, let's get rid of Fred or anything if that was the case.
No. And of course, it's too early to tell, right? Big Bang Hank says, you're 4 games in. What are you talking about? Greg from Lincoln says defeatist mentality. Not trying to be defeatist, just trying to set expectations and manage them, because I do think that making the postseason in back-to-back years would be an accomplishment for the program, right? Plenty of time for things to go right, plenty of time for things to go wrong. And that's why we're curious to see a game tomorrow night, 5:30 at Pinnacle Bank Arena, Nebraska hosting South Dakota. Let's go to break. Let's get you back out to Memorial Stadium. Class C1 state championship game on the horizon. Don't forget, keep sending in a name or a family that might need a hand at this Thanksgiving and getting a delicious Thanksgiving meal they might not have had. Otherwise, 402-464-5685. We'll announce another family who's getting a meal from one of our amazing local restaurant partners here at 93.7, the ticket at halftime of the game. He's Bach. I'm Austin. We got Nick Sainert and a former Husker football player. I believe it's Jay Foreman on the call with him for Wahoo and Central City. Class C1 state championship game comes up next. Are you a skilled mechanic looking for your next big opportunity? Constructors is hiring. We're looking for experienced mechanics to join our family-owned team. We offer competitive wages, great benefits, brand new service trucks, OEM-level diagnostic software, and career growth opportunities. Positions include lead and A-level mechanics for our shop and multiple field technicians. If you're driven and ready to grow with a company that's been around since 1908, apply today at constructorslincoln.com. Salt Mine City is now open at 8th and R in the Haymarket. Come check out Lincoln's newest brewery with 12 beers on tap, including the popular Single Axle Light American Lager, Brick Street Amber Wheat, and so many more. There's daily drink specials like $1 off Moscow Mules on Tuesdays, $6 IPAs on Fridays, and $6 Bloody Marys on Saturdays. Stop by Tuesday through Thursday from 4 to 9 p.m., Fridays 4 to 11 p.m., Saturdays 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sundays from noon to 8 p.m. It's Salt Mine City, Lincoln's newest brewery at 8th and R.
After a long, hot summer, are you ready for fall? What about your home? Is your heating system ready for cooler temperatures ahead? Be sure and call Bryant for your fall heating check. No matter what brand of equipment you own, Bryant's trained technician will thoroughly clean and inspect your furnace or heat pump to make sure you stay warm and comfortable. Call today to schedule your home heating check. 467-1111. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. 467-1111. We do whatever it takes.
The electrical workers of Local Union 265 are now hiring licensed journeyman electricians from $32.50 to $42.50 per hour with paid benefits. And if you're looking for a new career, they're hiring apprentices at $19.50 per hour with paid benefits. Call the office at 402-423-4497 to apply. Start your electrical career today.